I thought transferring schools mid-semester would be the hardest part of my year, but that was before I met Caleb. Let me back up. I'm 22, a senior now. I had to switch colleges halfway through the fall because of some complicated family stuff. Basically, my dad had a stroke and I needed to be closer to home. That meant leaving behind my old life, friends, and the little bubble I'd built for myself over the last 3 years. I didn't tell anyone how much it wrecked me inside. I just packed my things, told my professors thank you, and moved back to my mom's house like nothing happened. The new school wasn't terrible. It was bigger, colder, both literally and socially, and most people already had their groups. I was just some guy showing up in October, too late to be anyone's priority. It didn't help that I didn't rush a frat or join any clubs. I didn't have the energy, but I was lucky enough to land a spot in one of the on-campus apartments. Tiny, overpriced, but mine. Well, half mine. Enter Caleb. I didn't know what to expect when I moved in. The housing office gave me a name, a key, and a vaguely threatening warning about respecting shared spaces. I opened the door that first night with my duffel bag slung over my shoulder and found him on the couch, controller in hand, headset on, completely locked in on whatever game he was playing. He didn't look up at first, just said, "Yo," like he'd been expecting me, which maybe he had. He was tall, built like he played football, with messy dark hair and that lazy confidence that some guys just seem to be born with. His hoodie was bunched up around his forearms, showing off these stupidly nice tattoos on both arms. I remember noticing his jawline right away and immediately hating myself for it. I dropped my bag awkwardly and said, "Hey, I'm Drew." "Caleb," he replied, still not taking his eyes off the screen. "Room's on the left." I cleared out a drawer. That was it. No welcome tour, no handshake, nothing. Just a shrug and a nod toward the hallway. The first few weeks were weird. We barely talked. He kept to himself, and so did I. We passed each other in the kitchen sometimes, or brushed shoulders on our way out the door. He had friends over a lot. Loud, athletic guys who always gave me the same vaguely confused look, like, "What's this guy doing here?" I got used to it, the noise, the distance, the way Caleb never said more than a few words at a time. I figured we just weren't going to be friends. No big deal. I wasn't here to make besties. But then something happened. One night, I was up late working on a paper. Caleb had come back from the gym, sweaty, shirtless, towel slung around his neck like we were in a locker room and not a shared apartment. He gave me a quick nod, grabbed a Gatorade, and went straight to the couch. Business as usual. But then he turned to me and said, "You always this quiet?" I blinked at him. It took me a second to realize he was actually talking to me. What? "You've been here, like, a month, and I still don't know what you study. Or if you even eat. I've never seen you use the stove." I laughed, kinda surprised. "I eat. Just not when you're around, I guess." He smirked. "So what's the deal? You allergic to socializing, or what?" There was something in his voice, half teasing, half curious. It threw me off. "I didn't think you were all that interested in conversation," I said carefully. He raised an eyebrow. "I'm not, but you're starting to make me feel like I've got a ghost roommate." That made me smile a little. "I'm a transfer. It's been a weird adjustment." He nodded like he understood. "Where from?" I told him. He asked a couple more questions. Nothing deep, just enough to make it feel like something shifted. Like maybe I wasn't just an invisible roommate anymore. After that, things got better. We started talking more. At first, it was just casual stuff. TV shows, classes, music. But then one night, I came home looking like shit. After getting some rough news from back home, I didn't even realize I'd been crying a little until I dropped my keys and Caleb looked up from the couch. "Yo," he said, standing. "You good?" I shook my head, tried to play it off. "Long day, sorry." He didn't press, just went into the kitchen, came back with 2 beers, and handed me one without saying anything. We sat on the couch in silence for a while, just drinking, watching whatever random movie was playing. It was the first time I felt like he actually saw me, like he wasn't just tolerating my presence, but maybe even liked having me around. It got harder after that, Not in a bad way, but in a confusing one. I started noticing things I shouldn't have, like the way his eyes crinkled when he laughed, or how his voice dropped when he was half asleep in the mornings, groaning his way to the kitchen in sweatpants and a hoodie. I tried not to think about it, but then came the night that changed everything. It wasn't dramatic or planned, just one of those moments you can't undo. We were watching TV again, some dumb comedy. He was sitting close, closer than usual. His leg brushed mine, and neither of us moved. I glanced at him. He didn't look away. Then he said, "Do you ever think about guys?" I blinked. "What?" He cleared his throat. Like, not in a gay way, just in a curious way. My heart skipped. "Yeah," I said before I could stop myself. "Sometimes." He nodded, slow. Then he turned toward me and asked, "You ever kiss one?" "No," I said. "You?" He hesitated, then shook his head. "Nah." Then came the silence. And then he leaned in. And just like that, the whole world shifted. I didn't move at first. I don't know if it was shock, confusion, or the sheer disbelief that Caleb, my grumpy, half-shirtless, protein shake-chugging roommate, was leaning in to kiss me, but I froze. His lips hovered there for a second, barely a breath between us, like he was giving me time to back away, like he was daring me to. But I didn't. I couldn't. So he did it. He kissed me. It wasn't deep or hungry or even particularly skillful. It was unsure, a little hesitant, the kind of kiss that asked more questions than it answered. But it was real. His lips were warm, soft, and he didn't pull away right away. He lingered, like he was trying to understand whatever it was we were doing, like he needed to feel it to make sure it was really happening. When he finally leaned back, his eyes searched mine. "Sorry," he mumbled. "That was, Don't be," I said quietly, heart pounding. "I mean, unless you regret it." He shook his head quickly. "No, I don't know what I'm doing." That made two of us. We sat in silence for a few seconds, the weight of what just happened hanging between us. On the TV, someone was yelling, probably part of the show's big finale, but I couldn't focus. My mind was stuck in that moment, in the feel of his lips on mine, in the fact that Caleb, the guy who barely looked at me the first month we lived together, just kissed me. Was that, like, a joke? I asked before I could stop myself. "Or are you?" His jaw tightened. "No, not a joke." I nodded, eyes dropping to my hands. "Okay." He rubbed the back of his neck. "I don't know what it means, Drew. I've never done anything like that. I've never even thought about it before." "Not really." "But you kissed me." "Yeah. And you wanted to." He looked at me for a long second, then nodded. "Yeah. I think I did." I exhaled slowly, trying to calm the storm in my chest. "Okay, so what now?" He let out a humorless chuckle. "You're asking the wrong guy." I smiled, just a little. "Figures." He stood up, pacing once before stopping near the window. "I'm not trying to mess with you, man. I know this is probably a lot." "It's not just you," I said. "I didn't see it coming either." He turned back toward me. "But you're into guys?" I nodded slowly. "Yeah, I've known for a while." He didn't look surprised. If anything, he looked like something just clicked into place. "That makes sense," he said softly. I tilted my head. "What does?" He shrugged, then gave me this sheepish half smile. I think I've always kind of felt something. Like when I was around you. It was different. I didn't know what to call it. But it was there. My chest tightened. "Caleb, I'm not saying I'm gay, or bi, or anything. I don't know what I am. I've just always liked girls. Until me?" He didn't answer, but the silence was enough. He sat back down, this time closer than before. Our legs touched again, and this time it didn't feel accidental. He didn't pull away. "You okay?" he asked, glancing at me. I should be asking you that. He smiled faintly. Honestly, I have no idea what the hell I'm doing, but I don't want you to think I'm playing with you. I wouldn't have kissed you if it didn't mean something. I nodded. I believe you. We didn't kiss again that night. We didn't even touch, really. We just sat there on the couch, letting the weight of the moment settle, letting the shift between us sink in. At some point, he leaned his head back and closed his eyes. Can we not tell anyone? At least for now? Of course. Thanks, he said, voice barely above a whisper. Eventually, I went to bed, but I didn't sleep. I just lay there staring at the ceiling, my fingers brushing over my lips like I could replay the moment over and over. And I did, all night. The next morning, things felt different. Not in a bad way, not awkward, surprisingly. Just quieter. Like something fragile had formed between us, and we were both too afraid to touch it too hard, in case it broke. He made coffee like usual, shirtless as usual, acting like nothing had changed. But I caught him watching me when he thought I wasn't looking. And I didn't stop looking at him either. We didn't talk about it again for 2 days. Not because we were ignoring it. Just letting it breathe, I guess. Letting the dust settle. Then, on Friday night, he came into my room. He knocked first, which was new. He never knocked. I looked up from my laptop. Hey! He leaned in the doorway, fidgeting with the hem of his hoodie. Can I ask you something? Of course. That night when I kissed you, did it feel weird? Like wrong? I stared at him for a second. No. It felt right. Confusing, but right. He nodded slowly, as if that confirmed something for him. Then he stepped inside, closed the door behind him, and sat on the edge of my bed. I turned my chair toward him, waiting. I've been thinking about it, he said, eyes fixed on the floor. A lot. Like, all week. And I can't stop. I swallowed. Me too. He looked up then. So, would it be okay if I kissed you again? For real this time? My heart nearly stopped. Yeah, I said, barely able to get the word out. It'd be very okay. He moved closer, slow and careful, like he didn't want to scare me off, like he needed me to know this wasn't some impulse, wasn't a joke. And then he kissed me again, longer this time. Deeper, a kiss that didn't ask questions, but answered them. When he pulled away, his forehead pressed against mine, he whispered, Okay, yeah, I really liked that. Me too, I said, smiling. Then we just sat there, quiet, close, hearts beating too fast. That was the moment I knew this wasn't a one-time thing. This was the beginning of something. Something I didn't see coming. But something I wanted more than anything. After that second kiss, nothing really went back to normal. And I don't mean things got weird. If anything, they got easier. Caleb didn't freak out. I didn't overanalyze. We didn't sit around talking about what it all meant or if he wanted to put a label on it. It was like we both silently agreed to just feel it out. There was something kind of beautiful about that. The next day, he didn't avoid me. In fact, he came into the kitchen while I was making eggs, stole a slice of my toast, and bumped his shoulder into mine. Still like me after last night? He asked, grinning. I smirked. Jury's out. He laughed and walked off, chewing my toast. But the way he looked back at me before leaving the room, it wasn't just playful. It was soft. We were in this in-between place, not dating, not ignoring it, just slowly orbiting each other closer and closer. And every time I thought we might pull apart again, something would draw us back. The physical stuff didn't come right away, not because we didn't want to. Believe me, I did. But because Caleb was taking his time. One night, we were sitting on the couch again, our legs tangled under a blanket, watching something neither of us was paying attention to. My hand was resting on his thigh. His thumb brushed across the back of my hand now and then, like a reflex. He leaned his head back and let out a breath. I used to think I knew exactly who I was, he said, voice low. But lately, I don't know. It's like everything I thought I'd figured out is just different now. You mean me, I said quietly. Yeah, you. I squeezed his hand. It's okay, I said. You don't have to figure it all out tonight. Or ever, honestly. He turned to look at me. How'd you do it? What? No, like, that you were into guys, I shrugged. I always kinda knew. I just didn't admit it to myself for a while. Once I did, everything else got easier. Not easy, just lighter. He nodded, thoughtful. Then, can I sleep in your room tonight? I felt my chest tighten a little. Not with nerves, but something warmer. Hope, maybe. Yeah, I said. You can. We didn't do anything that night. Just laid side by side on my bed, fully clothed, under the same blanket. I remember staring at the ceiling, hyper aware of how close he was. I could feel the heat of him through the sheets, smell the faint scent of his shampoo. And then he rolled onto his side, draped an arm over my chest, and rested his head on my shoulder like it was the most natural thing in the world. Don't let me freak out, he mumbled. You're not freaking out, I whispered. But maybe I was, because this felt too good. The next few weeks were like living in a bubble. We kept it between us. At school, we didn't hold hands or look at each other any differently. But back at the apartment, everything had changed. We cooked dinner together, shared Spotify playlists, started brushing teeth side by side at night like we'd been married for years. Sometimes he'd pull me into his lap while I was working at my desk, just to kiss my neck and distract me. And every night, he'd end up in my bed. Sometimes we talked for hours. Sometimes we just fell asleep holding each other. Once or twice, we let our hands wander. Nothing too far, just enough. He never said the word boyfriend. I didn't ask him to, but we were something real. Then came the night I met his friends. He invited me to join them for a game night, just a few of the guys from his old dorm and their girlfriends. We played cards, ate pizza, drank cheap beer. They were loud, funny, exactly the kind of people I thought Caleb fit in with. I tried to blend in, be chill, act like just the roommate. At one point, while I was reaching for another drink, I heard one of his friends say, "Dude, is your roommate seeing anyone? He's kinda hot." I froze. Before I could even process it, Caleb said, "Yeah, he is." There was a pause. And then, "Oh shit, you serious?" Caleb looked right at me. "Yeah, I'm serious." I couldn't breathe for a second. Not from fear, but from whatever the hell just cracked open in my chest. The guy just laughed and said, "Damn. All right, man, respect." And that was it. No drama, no awkwardness, just acceptance. Later that night when we got home, I leaned against the door, watching Caleb kick off his shoes. "You didn't have to do that," I said. He looked up. "Say I'm seeing you?" I nodded. He walked over, cupped my face in both hands, and kissed me softly. "I wanted to," he said. "I want to stop pretending this isn't something." And right there, in the hallway, I kissed him again. Longer this time. With both hands gripping his hoodie, like I was holding on to something I didn't want to lose, because I didn't. He wasn't just my roommate anymore. He was something else, something more. The thing about happiness is that you almost never notice it while it's happening. It creeps up quietly, slipping into everyday routines until suddenly, you're brushing your teeth next to someone you used to barely speak to, and it feels like home. You're falling asleep to the sound of his breathing, waking up to the weight of his arm thrown over your waist, and you're not scared anymore. That was me and Caleb. For a while it was easy. He still didn't call me his boyfriend, and I didn't ask. But the signs were there. He left his hoodie on my desk when he went to class, let me borrow it like it was no big deal. He started tagging me in dumb memes at 2 a.m. He kissed me on the forehead once, just once, before walking out the door, and I pretended like it didn't absolutely wreck me in the best way. But it wasn't perfect. There were cracks. Little ones, at first. Like how he still hadn't told his family. I didn't push, I knew better. I'd come out years ago, and it had taken time. My mom had cried, not because I was gay, but because she was worried about my future. My dad had needed a few months to even say the word boyfriend out loud, so I gave Caleb space. Still, it gnawed at me, especially after that night with his friends, when it seemed like he was ready, like he wanted to show the world. But the world, it turned out, only went as far as his living room. One Saturday, I walked into the apartment and heard him on the phone, pacing the hallway. His voice was soft, careful, the kind of voice you use when you're lying, but trying to make it sound like the truth. "No, just me and my roommate," he said, chuckling. "Nah, we're good. He's cool. Quiet, you know?" I stood there, frozen, groceries still in my arms. Roommate. That word hit harder than it should have. When he noticed me, he flinched, like I'd caught him doing something wrong. He ended the call quickly and offered a smile I didn't return. "Was that your mom?" I asked, unloading the bags. He nodded. "Yeah, she wants to visit next month." "Oh," I said, trying to sound normal. "Cool. She just doesn't know yet." "About me?" He hesitated. "About us," I nodded, lips pressed tight. "Got it." He crossed the room and touched my arm. "It's not that I'm ashamed. I don't know how to bring it up. I'm not asking you to come out for me, Caleb," I said. "I just don't want to be your secret." "You're not," he said quickly. But it felt like I was. He saw it on my face, stepped back, rubbed his jaw like he always did when he was stressed. "I'll figure it out," he said. "I promise." I nodded. But part of me didn't believe him. We still slept in the same bed that night, still kissed, still curled into each other like nothing was wrong. But something was different. Just slightly. A shift in the air. The next few days were weird. We went back to our routines, but the silence between us started to stretch. Not angry, not tense, just unsure. Then came the campus party. He didn't want to go at first. Said parties weren't really his thing anymore. But one of his friends was turning 23 and throwing a massive get-together off campus. And somehow we both ended up there. Red Solo cups, bad music, and too many bodies pressed into too small a house. We stuck together at first. He kept a hand on the small of my back while we navigated the crowd. But then someone handed him a drink, and another guy pulled him into a game of beer pong, and before I knew it, we were in different corners of the party. I stood by the kitchen doorway, nursing a warm drink, watching him laugh with his friends. He looked happy, free, and straight. At least, that's how everyone saw him. Someone tapped me on the shoulder. A girl I vaguely recognized from psych class. Her eyes were glassy, smile crooked from alcohol. "You came with Caleb, right?" she asked. "Yeah." "He's so hot." God, I swear every girl here's had a crush on him at some point. I forced a smile. "Yeah, he's something," she grinned. "Is he single?" I blinked. "What? I mean, is he seeing anyone? Officially?" I felt something twist in my stomach. "I don't think he'd say he is," I said quietly. Her face lit up. "Nice. I might shoot my shot." I nodded, smiled, turned away, and walked straight out of the house. The air outside hit me like a slap. Cold, biting. I shoved my hands into my jacket and started walking. I didn't even know where I was going. Just away. Away from the noise. Away from the girl's question. Away from the truth I didn't want to admit. Because she was right. He wouldn't say he was taken. Not yet. Maybe not ever. Half an hour later, my phone buzzed. "Caleb, where are you?" I stared at the screen. Me. Needed air. Left early. "Caleb. Come back?" I didn't answer. Not right away. When I finally did, all I said was, "Me. I don't want to be invisible anymore." His typing bubble appeared. Then vanished. Then came back. Then vanished again. I waited. And waited. But no reply came. I turned off my phone. And kept walking. I stayed out until the streetlights flickered on and the wind started to bite at my cheeks. Part of me hoped he'd show up, maybe run down the street, out of breath and dramatic, the way they do in movies. Grab my arm, apologize, say something bold and beautiful. But life's not like that. When I finally dragged myself back to the apartment, the lights were off. The living room was empty. His bedroom door was closed. I got into bed without showering, still wearing the same clothes. I lay there, staring at the ceiling, not even tired, just hollow. Like I'd hit some kind of emotional wall and didn't know how to get over it. The next morning, I found him sitting at the kitchen table, hair messy, hoodie thrown on, a half-eaten bowl of cereal in front of him. He didn't look up when I walked in. "Hey," I said, voice rough from lack of sleep. He didn't answer. I poured myself a cup of coffee, sat down across from him, and waited. Finally, he spoke. "I didn't know how to text you back." "I figured." He pushed the spoon around the bowl. I didn't want to say the wrong thing. "Caleb," I said softly, "you didn't say anything at all." He looked at me then, really looked. His eyes were red-rimmed. He hadn't slept either. "I didn't want to hurt you," he said. "Well, you did." He nodded like he already knew that. There was a long silence. Then, "I panicked," he admitted. "When you texted me that, it was like you held up a mirror and I didn't like what I saw. I didn't mean to make you feel invisible. He cut himself off, jaw clenching. "You don't want to be with me," I said, keeping my voice steady. "At least not where people can see it." "That's not true." "Isn't it?" He looked down, then back up. "I'm scared, Drew." "I know. I've never done this before. I don't know how to tell my parents. I don't know what it means. I don't even know what I am." "I'm not asking you to know," I said. "I'm just asking you to show up. For me. For this." He leaned back in his chair, rubbing his face. "It's not that easy." "I know it's not. But it doesn't mean I should feel like a secret." He was quiet again. The cereal in his bowl had gone soggy. Finally, he stood up. "I need to go for a drive." "Okay." He didn't say goodbye, just grabbed his keys and left. The door clicked shut behind him, and the silence was deafening. I didn't cry. Not yet. But my body felt like it wanted to, like something inside me was building up, desperate to spill out. I spent the rest of the day cleaning. That's what I do when I'm spiraling. Scrub the countertops, fold things that don't need folding, rearrange the fridge like it matters. Anything to not feel, anything to not sit still long enough to think. By the time the sun started going down, Caleb still wasn't back. I checked my phone. No texts, no missed calls. I tried not to let that mean something, but it did. That night, I ate dinner alone. A bowl of microwaved pasta. One didn't taste. I stared at the wall the entire time, imagining 100 different conversations we might still have. All of them ended the same way, with him either walking away or breaking into something real. I went to bed early, not because I was tired, but because I didn't want to be awake anymore. It was almost midnight when I heard the front door open. I didn't move. My heart pounded, but I stayed still, facing the wall, pretending to be asleep. A few seconds passed. Then I heard my bedroom door creak open. Soft footsteps. The bed shifted as he sat on the edge. I felt the blanket lift. Then the familiar weight of him sliding in beside me. Neither of us said anything. Then I felt his hand reach for mine under the covers. Warm. Steady. "There. I don't want to lose you," he whispered. "You don't have to. I just don't know how to be what you need." I turned to face him. The moonlight through the window caught the edge of his face. His eyes were tired, but honest. "You don't need to be anything but here," I said. "I am," he whispered. He pulled me closer, pressing his forehead against mine. "I'll try," he said. "I'll figure it out. I want to figure it out. For you." That was the first time he held me like he didn't want to let go. No more hesitation, no more pulling away, just us, quiet and close and finally choosing each other. The next morning felt different. Not in a fireworks, life just changed kind of way. More like the quiet after a long storm. When the world looks the same but everything feels a little cleaner, a little softer, like maybe something important just settled into place. I woke up to Caleb still curled next to me, one arm slung across my chest, his breath warm against the side of my neck. I didn't move. Not right away. I just lay there, letting the weight of his body ground me, letting myself believe this was real and not something temporary. Eventually, he stirred. "Hey," he mumbled, voice rough from sleep. "Hey." He didn't pull away. Just let his hand rest on my chest, his fingers moving slowly, almost like he was absent-mindedly tracing circles. "Sorry about yesterday," he said. "You already apologized." "I know. Still." I turned my head toward him. "You doing okay?" He nodded, eyes still half closed. "Yeah, I think I am. I mean, I'm scared. But I want this. I want you." It wasn't poetic. It wasn't a grand declaration. But it was, Caleb. And it was honest. That was enough. We stayed in bed longer than usual. No alarms, no rushing. Just tangled legs and soft conversation and the kind of silence that feels good. Around noon, we finally got up. I made coffee while he leaned against the counter, watching me like he always did when he thought I wasn't paying attention. "You ever think about the first time we met?" he asked, sipping his mug. "Every time I do the dishes," I said. "You barely looked at me, just grunted and went back to your game." He smirked. "Yeah, I was kind of a dick." "You were." I agreed. Total jerk. "But look at us now." He stepped closer, standing behind me, resting his chin on my shoulder, his arms wrapped loosely around my waist, and I felt his chest press against my back. "You're a good thing, Drew," he said. "I'm lucky I didn't mess this up." "You didn't." "I almost did." "Almost doesn't count." He kissed the side of my neck, soft and slow. "Still, I'm sorry for making you feel like a secret." I turned in his arms, facing him. "You're not the only one who's scared, you know," I said. "I act chill about all this, but I've been through stuff. People don't always stick around." "I'm stickin'." "You sure?" He nodded, serious now. "I'm sure." I believed him. Later that week, he did something I didn't expect. He invited me to meet his sister. It wasn't a big production. She was in town visiting friends and wanted to grab coffee. I figured he'd go alone. But that morning, as he buttoned his shirt, he looked at me and said, "You coming?" I stared at him. "You want me there?" "Yeah," he said, like it was obvious. "I want her to meet you." I hadn't even met his parents yet. But this was something. So he went. The cafe was warm and loud, filled with clinking mugs and indie music and the scent of roasted beans. His sister Erin looked like a brighter, more sarcastic version of him. Same eyes, same smile, but quicker to use both. She hugged him first, tight and genuine, then turned to me. "So," she said, tilting her head. "You're the guy." I froze. Yeah, I guess so." She smiled. "Good. He's been a moody little mess since you moved in. Nice to finally see him acting like a human again." Caleb groaned. "Please don't start." Erin ignored him, motioning for us to sit. "So how'd you two end up, like this?" The way she said it wasn't rude. Just curious. We exchanged a look. Caleb laughed. "It's a long story," I said. "I've got time," she replied. We told her bits and pieces. The roommate setup, the late night talks, the first kiss. She listened the whole time, chin resting in her hand, nodding thoughtfully. When we finished, she leaned back and said, "Well, damn, that's actually really cute." "Thanks," Caleb said. She turned to me. "He's a handful, but he's got a good heart. Don't let him screw this up. I'll try." Caleb rolled his eyes but reached under the table for my hand. He didn't say anything. Just held it. Just kept holding it. After coffee, we walked back to the car. It was cold, overcast. Caleb didn't say much until we were halfway home. She liked you, he said. I liked her. He nodded. Felt good, having you there. I glanced at him. You've changed. Yeah? Yeah. And I think you're still changing. He grinned. That's what love does, right? The word stopped me. Just for a second. I didn't say anything. Neither did he. But I felt it. I didn't need to hear it out loud. Not yet. It was already there. In the way he looked at me. In the way he let go of fear, little by little. In the way he chose me. Over and over again. The first time Caleb introduced me to his parents, I thought I was going to throw up. It wasn't a full-on dinner or anything like that. Just a casual afternoon coffee stop. His mom was in town for a work conference and asked if he wanted to catch up. He said yes. Then asked if I wanted to come. You don't have to, he said, brushing crumbs off the kitchen counter. I haven't told her everything yet. She just thinks we're roommates. Right, I said. So you want me to be there as your roommate? He winced. Not exactly. I waited. He looked at me. I want her to meet you. I just don't know how much I can say yet. And even though that part stung a little, I understood. This wasn't a switch you could flip. Especially not in a family like his, where everything looked picture perfect on the outside. Holiday cards, well-kept lawn, 2 golden retrievers. So I said yes. I went. We met at a quiet cafe near the hotel where she was staying. Caleb was nervous, more than I'd ever seen him. He kept fixing his hair in the rearview mirror, tapping his fingers on the steering wheel, checking his phone even though there were no new messages. She's cool, he said for the 5th time. Just intense. When we walked in, she was already there. Mid-50s, tidy blonde bob, scarf knotted neatly around her neck. Her eyes lit up when she saw Caleb. There you are, she said, standing to hug him. Then she turned to me. And you must be Drew. I reached out to shake her hand. Nice to meet you, ma'am. Oh, please. Linda is fine, she said, smiling warmly. We sat, ordered drinks, made small talk. She asked how I liked the school, what I was studying, if I had adjusted well after transferring. I told her the truth, that it was rough at first, but getting better, that having a solid roommate helped. She smiled at that. Caleb's always been a good judge of character. Caleb blushed. Actually blushed. I didn't think I'd ever seen that before. The conversation stayed safe. Grades, professors, the weather. But underneath it, I could feel this quiet tug-of-war going on in Caleb's head. Like he wanted to say more. Like he didn't know how. At one point, she excused herself to use the restroom. Caleb turned to me the second she walked away. I'm going to tell her. My stomach dropped. Now? He nodded. I don't want to keep doing this halfway thing. You deserve better than that. I didn't have time to respond before she came back. Caleb cleared his throat, sat up a little straighter. Hey, Mom, can I tell you something? She paused, coffee mug halfway to her lips. Of course. He glanced at me, then back at her. Drew's not just my roommate. There was. A pause. She set the mug down. Okay. We're together. Like, together. Another pause. Longer this time. Then she smiled. Small. Careful. I wondered. Caleb blinked. You did? You've never invited anyone to meet me before, she said. And the way you looked at him when you walked in? Well, it didn't look like just roommates to me. He laughed, relieved, awkward, a little stunned. So you're okay with it? I'm okay with you being happy, she said. It might take your father a bit longer, but I'm here, okay? I saw his shoulders relax for the first time all day. Later, as we walked back to the car, Caleb kept shaking his head like he couldn't quite believe it. That went way better than I expected. You look terrified. I was, he admitted. I thought she was gonna cry or... I don't know. quote Bible verses at me. You know she didn't even blink when you said we were together? I noticed, he said. She's way cooler than I gave her credit for. Back at the apartment that night, we didn't go out, didn't cook, just ordered takeout and watched old reruns on the couch. At one point, he turned to me and said, "You're really important to me, you know that?" I know. He shook his head. No, I mean like, I think about you all the time. Even when I'm at class or walking to the gym or brushing my teeth, you're just in my head. I didn't say anything, just slid closer, resting my head on his shoulder. Sometimes I'm scared this is gonna fall apart, he said. Why? Because good things don't usually last for me. I lifted my head. You think I'm a good thing? He smiled, soft. I think you might be the best thing. My chest ached in that too full, too good way. I kissed him, not because I needed to, just because I could. Later, as we fell asleep, his hand found mine under the blanket. He didn't say anything else. He didn't have to, because for once, everything felt real. Everything felt safe. And I think we both knew. We weren't going backward anymore. By spring, everything had changed. Not in some dramatic fireworks way. Just slowly, naturally, like the seasons themselves. One day you look up and the snow's gone. The sidewalks are dry, and there's something warm in the air that wasn't there before. That was me and Caleb. It wasn't a secret anymore. Not to our friends, not to his family, not even to campus. He started calling me his boyfriend, casually at first, then with confidence, then proudly. The first time he said it out loud in public, we were at a crowded bagel shop on a Saturday morning. He was talking to the guy behind the counter, trying to get his sandwich remade because they used the wrong kind of cream cheese. My boyfriend gets this one every time, he said, pointing at mine. Swears it's better. The guy nodded, already halfway to fixing it. I just stood there, stunned, blinking at him like he'd grown a second head. What? Caleb said, smirking as he caught my expression. You're my boyfriend. I like saying it. I couldn't stop smiling the entire walk home. And that was the thing. He changed. Not just in how he saw us, but in how he saw himself. He wasn't afraid anymore. Or maybe he was, but he stopped letting that fear decide for him. We still had rough days. Times when he shut down after a hard phone call from home, or when old habits tried to creep back in. There were still moments when I could tell he was battling something internal that he couldn't quite put into words. But he let me in, bit by bit, layer by layer. He started saying, "I love you," without flinching. The first time, it slipped out after a fight. It wasn't even a big fight, just a stupid argument about laundry. I accused him of shrinking my favorite hoodie. He got defensive, I snapped. He walked out for an hour. When he came back, he threw the hoodie at me, said, "It was already small, jackass." And then, softer, "I love you, even when you're annoying." I stared at him. "What?" he said, blinking like he hadn't just dropped the biggest emotional grenade of our relationship. "You love me?" he groaned. "I can't believe that's how I said it." I laughed. It was perfect. I said it back, of course. That night, right before we fell asleep, our legs tangled, his hand resting on my chest. "I love you too," I whispered. "I know," he said, sleepy and smug. Summer came. I moved back home for a bit to help my mom with the house. Caleb stayed in the apartment to take a couple summer courses. We texted constantly, FaceTimed every night. The distance sucked, but it made us better at talking, better at listening. One weekend, he drove down to see me. We sat on my porch, watching fireflies blink in the yard, his fingers laced with mine. "You think we'll still be doing this a year from now?" he asked. I turned to him. "Doing what?" "This. Us. You and me." I didn't hesitate. "Yeah, I do." He smiled, then leaned in and kissed me. Soft. Sure, like he knew. And I think he did, because here's the thing I've learned about love. It doesn't always come the way you expect it. Sometimes it's a guy you didn't think would ever even look at you twice, Sometimes it's late night talks and slow mornings, and holding hands under the table at family dinners. Sometimes it's messy, scary, new. But if it's real, it finds you anyway. Even if it starts with a kiss you didn't see coming. Even if it begins with a guy who used to barely say your name.